I never thought the day would come when my own daughter would look at me like I was an expired coupon, something to clip and discard to save a few bucks. For years, I poured my soul into her, sacrificing dreams, sleep, and savings so she could have the world. But when my body started failing and the inheritance money glittered in her husband's eyes, they shoved me into a rundown nursing home like yesterday's trash. What they didn't know was that fate had a twist waiting in the wings, a secret legacy from my father that would flip the script and force a reckoning. Buckle up, because this isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a tale of quiet power, unexpected fortune, and the kind of family redemption that hits you right in the feels. Comment below if you've ever felt forgotten by those you love the most. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life dramas that prove it's never too late to reclaim your life. My name is Clara Thompson, and I'm 68 years old. But let's rewind to when this nightmare began, about 3 years ago. I was born in a small town in rural Iowa, the only child of a tinkerer father named Arthur and a resilient mother named Grace. Dad was always in the garage, hammering away at inventions he swore would change the world. His big one was a patented device from 1958, a simple but genius pressure sensor for farm machinery that prevented breakdowns and saved crops from ruin. He licensed it to a big ag company, and for a while, royalty checks kept us afloat. But after Dad passed from a heart attack when I was 19, Mom said the money dried up. "It's gone, Clara," she'd whisper, her eyes distant. "We make do with what we have." I took that lesson to heart. I married my high school sweetheart, Henry, a steady man who worked as a mechanic. We moved to Des Moines for better opportunities, and our daughter, Sophie, arrived like a burst of sunshine. She was everything, curly-haired, curious, always asking why about the world. Henry and I scrimped and saved. I worked as a school secretary. He fixed cars late into the night. Every penny went to Sophie's dance classes, her books, her college fund. When she met her husband David, a slick sales executive with ambitions as tall as skyscrapers, we welcomed him with open arms. "As long as he treats you right," I told her, ignoring the way his smile seemed calculated, like he was always tallying costs. Henry's death from cancer at 60 left me unmoored. The house echoed with silence, memories lurking in every corner. Sophie insisted I move in with them. "Mom, we have the space, and the kids adore you," she said. David nodded, though his eyes flicked to the clock. Their home was a dream, a spacious colonial in the suburbs with a backyard for barbecues and a guest suite for me. I threw myself into grandmother duties, picking up little Emma and Jack from school, baking apple pies, reading bedtime stories. It felt like purpose again, like I was needed. But cracks appeared as my health faltered. Arthritis twisted my fingers, a bad knee made stairs a battle. Doctor visits piled up, medications too. David started grumbling. "Clara, these bills are adding up," he'd say over dinner, his fork stabbing at his plate. Sophie, my defender, began to waver. "Mom, maybe you need more help than we can give." I brushed it off at first. "I'm fine, I can manage." But the inheritance from Henry, $250,000 in life insurance and savings, became the flashpoint for David. He saw it as investment capital for his latest scheme, a real estate flip. Sophie convinced me it was for the family. "Think of the grandkids, Mom. This could set them up for life." They started showing me brochures for nursing homes. "Just look, Mom, some are like resorts." But the one they chose was no resort, Sunnyvale Nursing Home, a budget facility on the edge of town with faded signs and rumors of neglect. "It's affordable, and they'll take good care of you," Sophie said, packing my clothes into suitcases. David drove me there on a gray afternoon, unloading boxes with mechanical efficiency. "Call if you need anything," he muttered, not hugging goodbye. Sophie squeezed my hand. "We'll visit every week, promise." As their car pulled away, I stood in the lobby, walker in hand, feeling like the ground had swallowed me whole.
betrayed by my own blood. How had love turned to this? The first days at Sunnyvale were a blur of humiliation and isolation. The room was cramped, shared with a woman named Ethel who snored like a chainsaw. The bed sagged, the walls were beige and peeling, and the air smelled of bleach mixed with despair. Breakfast was watery oatmeal served on trays, lunch a mystery sandwich, dinner overcooked veggies and tough meat. Activities? A communal TV blaring game shows or bingo with chipped markers. The staff were kind but overwhelmed. One nurse for 30 residents, rushing from room to room. "Hang in there, honey," a aide named What Maria would say, patting my shoulder. I kept busy as best I could, knitting scarves for the grandkids, writing letters Sophie never answered. Calls went to voicemail. "Mom, we're swamped with work and school stuff." Visits? The first month, Sophie came twice, bringing fast food and awkward conversation. David stayed in the car. The grandkids hugged me tight, asking when I'd come home. Soon, I'd lie, my heart breaking. By month 2, visits dropped to once. Excuses multiplied. Emma's sick. David's traveling. I stared at the phone, willing it to ring. Loneliness wrapped around me like a cold blanket. Nights were the worst, lying awake, replaying every sacrifice, wondering where I went wrong.
Then one afternoon in the common room, I met Harold. He was 72, a retired estate lawyer confined to a wheelchair after a stroke. His hair was silver, his eyes sharp as tacks behind bifocals. We bonded over lukewarm coffee and a shared puzzle. "Life's a puzzle, Clara," he'd say with a chuckle. "Pieces don't always fit at first." I confided in him over time. The lifetime of giving, the move, the abandonment, the inheritance diverted to David's ventures. Harold listened, nodding thoughtfully. "Sounds like exploitation, but tell me about your family history. Any loose ends, patents, trusts?" I laughed bitterly. Dad had a patent for a farm sensor. Royalties came for a bit, but Mom said they stopped after he died. Harold's interest sparked. "Let's dig. I have old contacts." He wheeled to the phone, called a former colleague at the U.S. Patent Office. Weeks later, a thick envelope arrived via mail. Inside were records. Dad's invention had been a staple in agriculture, licensed to multiple companies worldwide. Royalties had accumulated in a forgotten trust fund set up for me as the sole heir, unclaimed since Mom's passing 15 years ago. The total, with interest? A staggering $3.5 million. My hands trembled as I read the figures. "This can't be real." Harold grinned. "It is. Your father was smarter than anyone knew. He protected you." Tears streamed down my face, not just for the money, but for the validation. Dad had seen my future, even if he couldn't be there. All those years of making do, and this fortune sat waiting, gathering dust like an old tool in a garage. Claiming it wasn't simple, Harold guided me through the maze, affidavits, court filings, tax declarations. We met in the common room, papers spread on a wobbly table. The staff thought we were playing cards. Just old folks reminiscing, I'd say. Months dragged on, but persistence paid off. The day the bank confirmed the transfer, I sat in my room staring at the statement on Harold's borrowed laptop. I was a millionaire in a place where the vending machine stole your quarters. Freedom called, but revenge whispered louder. Why leave Sunnyvale now I could own it? The home was part of a chain. Elder Care Partners, a corporation notorious for cost-cutting, low wages, cheap supplies, high turnover. Online reviews painted a grim picture. Neglectful, heartless. Residents suffered silently. I decided to buy the whole thing. Harold formed an LLC, Arthur's Legacy Holdings, to keep my name hidden. I hired a business broker discreetly, analyzed the finances. The chain was struggling, debts piling up from lawsuits and bad press.
My offer was all cash, anonymous, irresistible. Negotiations took 4 months, conducted via email and phone from the nursing home's computer lab. The board accepted. Signing the digital documents in my room, I whispered, "For you, Dad." Just like that, I own Sunnyvale and 7 other facilities across the state. Power surged through me like electricity from one of Dad's gadgets. I wasn't the forgotten mother anymore. I was the boss. Changes started small to avoid suspicion. I directed funds for better meals, fresh fruits, homemade soups, even desserts. Staff got raises, bonuses for loyalty. More nurses were hired, reducing workloads. Residents noticed immediately. "The food tastes like home," Ethel exclaimed one dinner. I smiled, pretending surprise. "Must be new management." Harold became my unofficial advisor, reviewing policies from his wheelchair. We added physical therapy rooms, gardens for walking, art classes, even pet therapy with visiting dogs. Word spread among residents. Mr. Ramirez, a veteran with Parkinson's, got a new wheelchair. Mrs. Patel, diabetic, received customized meals. "Someone cares," they'd say in the halls. I posed as a volunteer consultant during site visits, overseeing renovations, bright paint, comfy furniture, updated bathrooms. The atmosphere shifted from despair to hope. Laughter echoed where silence once ruled. Sophie remained oblivious. Her visits had stopped entirely by then, replaced by occasional texts. "How are you, Mom? Busy here." David sent a generic birthday card with no money inside. The grandkids FaceTimed once, their faces lighting up the screen. "Grandma, when can we see you?" "Soon, darlings," I'd say, my voice steady. Inside, anger simmered. They thought I'd fade away, but I was building an empire from the shadows. As improvements rolled out, I planned the big reveal, an annual inspection and Family Appreciation Day at Sunnyvale. Invitations went to all residents' kin, mandatory for discussions on quality enhancements. Sophie RSVP'd, probably out of guilt. David tagged along, likely curious about the upgrade she'd heard rumors about from a mutual friend. The day arrived like a storm brewing. I dressed in a crisp blazer and slacks, hair styled at the home salon, another new addition. No more the frail woman in a housecoat. Harold wheeled beside me for support. The common room was transformed. Fresh flowers, catered snacks, new chairs arranged in rows. Residents beamed, dressed in their best. Families trickled in, murmuring about the changes. Sophie and David entered, the twins in tow. Emma ran to me. "Grandma, this place looks fancy." I hugged her, heart swelling. Sophie smiled nervously. "Mom, you look different. Healthier." David scanned the room, brow furrowed. "What's all this about?" I took the podium, microphone in hand. The room hushed. "Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Clara Thompson, and I'm the owner of Elder Care Partners, including Sunnyvale." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sophie's face drained of color. David stood, mouth agape. "What the hell?" I continued, voice steady. For too long, this chain prioritized profits over people. Residents were forgotten. Staff overworked. But no more. We've invested in better care, nutrition, activities, because everyone deserves dignity. Applause broke out from residents. I paused, locking eyes with Sophie. Many of you know my story. I was placed here by my family, seen as a burden, but a discovery changed everything. A royalty trust from my father's patent, unclaimed for decades. David interrupted, voice rising. "This is bullshit. You can't just buy the place. We'll sue for fraud or something." Harold chuckled from his spot. "Young man, everything's legal. Documents are public if you'd like to check." Sophie pulled David down, tears welling. Mom, how? The money. I stepped off the podium, approaching them. Dad's invention paid off big, Sophie. Millions. While you and David used Henry's inheritance for your flips, I found my own. You left me here to rot, to free up funds. Now I own the roof over the heads of people like me. The twins looked confused, Emma clinging to my leg. David fumed, red-faced. You manipulated this. Revenge, huh? Not revenge. Justice. For me, for these residents. Families clapped, some hugging me. Sophie whispered, I'm sorry, Mom. David pushed it all. I was scared to lose him, the life we built. We stepped aside, talking in hushed tones. She confessed David's control, his emotional manipulation, her regret for not standing up to it. I missed you every day, but I was weak. Forgiveness didn't come instantly. It was a process, like rebuilding a bridge one plank at a time. That night, Sophie came back alone. We sat in my room, now upgraded with a comfy chair and bookshelves, and cried together. I failed you, she said. As a daughter. I held her hand. We all make mistakes, but we can fix this. She filed for divorce 3 months later. David fought dirty, but Harold's legal advice helped her win custody and a fair settlement. Sophie moved closer, taking a job as the chain's community coordinator. She threw herself into improvements, organizing events, listening to resident stories. The grandkids visited weekly, filling Sunnyvale with laughter. Emma helped plant flowers in the garden. Jack read to Harold. The chain flourished under my ownership. We expanded programs, music therapy, tech classes for seniors, even a partnership with local schools for intergenerational visits. Reviews soared. 5 stars. Headlines like, From Neglect to Nirvana, The Turnaround at Elder Care. I traveled between facilities, ensuring every resident felt seen, valued. Harold became a board member, his stroke no match for his spirit. Looking back, the betrayal was a catalyst. It shattered me, but from the pieces, I built something stronger. Sophie and I rebuilt our bond, deeper now, forged in truth. You taught me strength, Mom, she said one evening over tea. I just forgot to see it in you. And me? I found peace. Not in the money, but in the legacy. Dad's invention funding dignity for the forgotten. If life kicks you to the curb, remember, sometimes the curb leads to a throne. Thanks for listening to my story. Hit that subscribe button, share your own tales in the comments, and remember, family isn't just blood, it's the choices we make to honor it.